Good morning and welcome to our last day of class. Can't believe that. And this is the last day of our practice final review. So what I'd like to do for you today is work any problem on the practice final from numbers 1 through 73. And I do want to go on record as saying whether you are in honors or in regular algebra, that the practice final is a great representation of what my final exam looks like. So if you could do these types of problems, this is what's on your exam. If it's not on here, with the exception of one problem, which I think may have only been on Algebra 1, which was write the polynomial in descending order according to the x variable. But everything else is covered. So on page 1, that covers numbers 1 through 4. Does anybody need me to do a problem on page 1 through 4? Yes. Number 4. Says use elimination to solve the system of equations. Since this is a multiple choice final, you didn't even have to use elimination because basically all you had to do was plug the numbers in, and that would give you the correct answer. But let's show you. If you look, elimination, there are 3 types of elimination. Elimination by addition, by subtraction, and by multiplication. In this particular case, in the y variables, the coefficients are the same, but the signs are opposite, which means you're going to add the 2 equations. Negative 2x plus a negative x is a negative 3x. A negative 2y plus a negative 2y, a negative 2y plus 2y is 0, and 4 plus a negative 1 is a negative 3. Divide each side by negative 3, and what you get is x equals negative 1. So the x coordinate is negative 1, which means right now you're done. You don't have to go on with the problem because it would be choice A. Yes?
On top it's 4 minus 1. It's supposed to be just 3.
Oh, sorry. It's 4 plus a negative 1, which is a positive 3. Thank you so much. A negative 3 divided by, on this side you get x, and on this side 3 divided by, that was correct, negative 3 is a negative 1. Oh my gosh. I apologize. I'm not feeling 100%, but I am trying. Do you understand what to do from here? Now you plug that in for x, but actually you don't have to finish the problem because x is negative 1 and that's the only choice. Page 2, numbers 5 through 11. Thanks for keeping me straight, guys. 5 through 11. Anybody need me to do a problem? 5 through 11. Yes?
Use number 10.
I can. This is a good problem. There's one like this on your exam. Okay, so this has a negative exponent. So you have to remember that you're not allowed to have a negative exponent. So the theme here is kick it and flip it. When you kick it, it spins. When it spins, the negative sign falls off and the fraction inverts. It's going to flip. So it's going to become a squared over 2a. And the whole thing now is to the power of 2, which is a squared to the second power over 2a to the second power, which is a to the 2 times 2, which is a to the 4th power, over 2 to the second, a to the second, which is 4a squared. Now we must simplify. To simplify, I can prime factor 2a's cancel, which leaves me a squared over 4. Does that help you? Yes? Question?
Could you use the square root of both top and bottom and have it be a over 2?
No, please don't go start doing that. Use the negative exponent rules. Thank you. Next. Anybody else on that page? Up to 11. Okay, questions 12 through 20. 12 through 20. Yes. 15. 11p minus 6q squared minus q minus the quantity q squared minus 5p plus 7p squared. The whole key here is you have to distribute the minus sign to the second parentheses, which means all of the signs are going to change. So this is an 11p minus 6q squared minus q squared plus 5p minus 7p squared. Look for like terms. 11p plus 5p gives me a 16p. A negative 6q squared minus q squared is a minus 7q squared. Minus q minus 7 minus 7p squared. And then you can rewrite it. I probably would have, if it was in descending order, all the p's would have gone first and then the q's, but they did it by exponent. So they did the highest exponent of the p, then the highest exponent of the q. And I believe that is choice D. Does that help you? Okay. Who else had a question from that page? Yes? 16. 16 is solve the equation. Okay. Basically, it's a multiple choice exam again, so I would have just plugged the answers in. And I would have not picked the fraction, which was choice C. I probably would have started with A, B, and D. Okay, but I'll show you the mechanics behind it, because that's important. You have 90 minutes to take the exam. 90 minutes, which should not be a problem. Can someone confirm that I copied the problem correctly? Okay, so we're going to use the distributive property, which is 9p squared minus 24p minus 8 equals 9p squared minus 27p plus 4. Okay, so now we've used the distributive property. We have variables and numbers on both sides of the equation. Variables to the left, numbers to the right. Stand up, sit down, fight, team, fight. So we subtract 9p squared from each side. Then we add 27p to each side. And we have 3p minus 8 equals 4. Add 8 to each side. And you get 3p equals 12. Sorry. Divide each side by 3. And you get p equals 4. Are you with me? Yes? So that would be choice B. Did that help? Okay, good. Anybody else on page 3? Page 4. Numbers 21 through 29. 21 through 29. Yes. 27. I mentioned when I reviewed this and even posted it on YouTube, I said by this time of the year people forgot to factor, how to factor by grouping. So basically what I would have done was I would have just FOILed the 4 choices to find out which one gave me back the original problem. But I can show you again the mechanics behind it. There is a question like this on your exam. I would just FOIL your answers. And I'm just being open and honest with you. So I would have gone ahead and grouped. And then you find the GCF of each parentheses. The GCF of 3x squared and 2x would be what, guys? X times 3x minus 2. And the GCF of 9xy and 6y would be what, guys? 3y. 3y times 3x minus 2. So your answer would be x plus 3y times 3x minus 2. How did you get that, Mrs. Urso? Well, the final factors, when you factor by grouping, are made up of the greatest common factor of the first parentheses, the greatest common factor of the second parentheses. There happened to have been an addition sign, so that's why it's x plus 3y. The second factor is the factor that is the repeater, 3x minus 2. And again, you could have gotten that by foiling each of your four answers, A, B, C, and D, and the correct answer is choice B. So if I could give you one word of advice, I would say let the exam work in your favor. Could we please sit up and pay attention? Thank you. Anybody else need a problem on page 4? Page 4. Page 5, 30 through 32.
I had one on page 4.
I'm so sorry.
Can I do 28, please?
28 is okay, basically just go ahead and foil the four responses. It's an X factor. What multiplies to 14 and adds to 15? 1 times 14 is 14. 1 plus 14 is 15. X plus 1 times X plus 14, which would be choice D. Anybody need anything else on page 4? I'm sorry. Page 5, 30, 31, 32. 30. Is this helpful, guys? Okay. 3t squared plus 10t plus 8. I feel like I'm going contrary to everything I've ever taught, but because it's a multiple choice exam, again, you are factoring something where the coefficient of the first term is greater than 1. So the easiest thing to do is just to FOIL the three choices because one of them is prime. But let's go through the mechanics again of how you factor something where the coefficient of the first term is greater than 1. You multiply the first term times the third. So what multiplies to 24 and adds to 10? 6 and 4. Now you split and rewrite the middle term. Now you factor by grouping. Final answer, 3t plus 4 times t plus 2, which should be choice what? D? Did that help? Do you understand what I mean though, Riley? All you had to do was FOIL choices A, B, and D. Guys, what's the answer if you can't factor it? Prime. Okay. Yes? 31, please. 31, I think, is the hardest question on the practice final and the hardest question on the exam. And the reason it is because it's set up that you should actually factor it. It tells you to factor it, which means it's setting you up to use the square root property. You had to realize that the left-hand side of this equation happens to be a perfect square trinomial, which means that when you factor the left-hand side, it's going to factor to two equal factors. What multiplies to 25 and at the same time adds to negative 10. Negative 5 and negative 5. So this would become d minus 5 quantity squared equals 6. Let me go on record as saying, and I did post this already on YouTube when I did this section, I worked it for you also by using the quadratic formula. It's just a lot of work because you had to simplify the radical at the end and then keep simplifying. But let's show you this is the easiest way to do it. So again, you have something that's squared. How do you undo something that's squared? You take the square root. Whatever you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other side. And what you get here is d minus 5 equals plus and minus radical 6. You are solving for d, so you add 5 to each side, and your final answer is d equals 5 plus and minus radical 6. And that would be choice B, like boy. Does that help? Yes? 32 I would plug in. 32 is a cinch. Just plug it in. It's the same thing. It's the square root property. However, it's already factored for you. So you take the square root of each side. and you get w minus 13 equals plus and minus 4. You're, sorry. You're solving for w. Let's get rid of that. Solving for w, so you add 13 to each side, and you get w equals 13 plus and minus 4, which is w. You get two answers. W equals 13 plus 4, and w equals 13 minus 4, which gives you 17 and 9. Now you could have just gone ahead and plugged those in as well, and those would be in set builder notation. Is that helpful? Okay. Please turn the page. Page 6. This is graphing quadratic equations, finding the axis of symmetry, finding the coordinates of the vertex. Anybody have a question on this page? Yes. Anybody need 33? 34? The equation will be given to you on the exam. The equation for the axis of symmetry, the formula is x equals negative b over 2a. So they want you to write the equation for the axis of symmetry of y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 6. You have to identify what a and b are. A equals what, guys? Just 2. What does b equal? 4. Okay, so now you plug it in. X equals 4. A negative sign is part of the formula, so I plugged in 4 for b over 2 times 2, or x equals negative 1. So the axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1. Choice A. Yes. One more time. The question was this. Will the equation for exponential growth, exponential decay, and compound interest be given to you? Yes, they will. Does anybody else need a problem on that page? Yes? Y equals 3x squared minus 4x plus 3, and they want the vertex. So the first step is you have to find the axis of symmetry. So A equals 3, B equals negative 4. So this would be x equals or x equals 4 over 6. So the x coordinate is 2/3. Basically, I'm done now. So those of you that are looking online, let me just give you the 4 choices. And don't be surprised if several problems fall apart for you like this on the real final as well. Why are you done? It's the only answer that has the x coordinate of 2/3. How about, oh, Miss Urso, I don't know what to do, show me. Okay, I could show you. To find y, all you do is plug in 2/3 for x back into the original equation. But it's not necessary. And then you can do the mechanics and you would get y equals 5 over 3. Does that help you? Are you sure? Okay, turn the page. 36 through 39. 36 through 39, yes? This is similar to what we did before, finding the square root. The left side is a perfect square trinomial. B squared minus 16b plus 64 equals 19. Original equation. The left side is a perfect square trinomial. What multiplies to 64 and adds to negative 16? Oh, you could have done this by, you could have used quadratic formula. That's why it says any method. Which way do you want me to do it? I'll do it any way you want. What do you like better? Do you want me to use square root property, or do you want me to use quadratic formula? Okay, no problem. It falls apart either way. Okay. Okay, subtract 19 from each side, because in order to solve a quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula, one side must equal what, guys? Is that 55? No, 45, right? Somebody help me. Okay. Now we want to use the quadratic formula. B squared minus 16b plus 45 equals 0. The quadratic formula is, let's sing it together. Go ahead, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's identify what A, B, and C are. A equals 1, B equals negative 16, C equals 45. X equals a negative 16 plus or minus the square root of negative 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times 45 all over 2 times 1. So this would be x equals 16 plus and minus the square root of 256 minus 4 times 45 is 180. Could someone check to make sure I'm not making a mistake, please? Are we good? Are you guys checking me to make sure I didn't mess up? Take the square root of 76, which is 8.7, so you get x equals 16 plus or minus 8.7 over 2. 16 plus 8.7 divided by 2. 16 minus 8.7 divided by 2. Excuse me. Um, 12.35, which you round to 12.4. And 3.65, which you round to 3.7. They left it as 3.6. So it would be choice D. Does that help you? Okay. 37, 38, 39. Next page. 40 or 41. 41. Yes. Does data show exponential behavior? Exponential behavior. There are two methods. Okay, method 1. Graph it. If it looks like this or this, when you graph it, it's exponential. If it graphs as a line or anything else, it's not exponential. Method 2 is most commonly used. Method 2. Okay. Data shows exponential behavior if the x's are being added or subtracted by a constant number. And the y's are being multiplied or divided by a constant number. So let's see what's going on with the x's. 3 looks like we're subtracting 2, correct? So we have a minus 2 here. And in the y's, we're adding 1. Both criteria must be met in order for it to be exponential behavior. So the answer would be no. And the reason being is, even though the x's are being increased or decreased by a constant, the y's are not being multiplied or divided. So then I would read all 4. So there's only 2 that say no. So choice A says no. The domain values are at regular intervals, but the range values have a common sum of 1. So that would be it, because the y's are being added by 1. Does that help you? Okay, good. Next page, page 9, 42 through 49. 42 through 49. 42, it's the same type of problem. Okay, let me look at the problem. All right, so what are you doing to the x's? Or the domain values? Plus 2. What are you doing to the y values? Okay, so a negative 8 plus what gives you negative 6? 2. A negative 6 plus what gives you negative 4? 2. So there is no common sum. Are you with me? And how about the y's? What are you doing to the y's? That's a bad problem. There's nothing like that. Pardon? No. What are you doing to the bottom? Multiplying by what? I can't hear you. Okay. 42 is a bad problem, guys. There will not be anything like that. It'll be very straightforward. I apologize. Okay? Anybody need anything 43 through 49? 43 through 49. 43. Okay. Paying attention, and I'm trying to wind it down, but I should get through it because I still have 10 minutes. 43. Determine the amount of an investment if $100 is invested at an interest rate of 5% compounded monthly for 5 years. Okay, the formula is given to you for compound interest. A equals P times the quantity, 1 plus R over N to the power of N times T. The amount that you're investing is $100. The interest rate is 5%. The interest rate must be changed to a decimal, which is 0.05. The time is always in years, is 5 years. And the number of times that it's being compounded, it says it's compounded monthly, which means monthly is 12 times. Now you take all of those pieces and you plug them in, and so it's going to look like this. A equals 100 times 1 plus 0.05 over 12 to the power of 12 times 5. And you're going to divide 0.05 by 12. Don't round anything, guys, until the very end. 0.05 divided by 12 gives me 0.004166667. Add that to 1. And so now you have something like this on your calculator. It's not necessary to write this 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's right. To the 60th power. Now take that to the power of 60. Now multiply it by 100. and you should get $128. Does that help? Okay. 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, straightforward, 49, geometric means, 50, geometric means. 49. The geometric means is the missing term between two non-successive terms in a geometric sequence. The geometric means always has two answers, a positive and a negative. So here's your original problem. Step 1, divide the third by the first. So negative 36 divided by negative 9 equals positive 4. Take the positive and negative square root of the result of step 1. So we're going to take plus and minus the square root of 4, which is plus and minus 2. Third step, multiply the first term by the result of step 2, which is negative 9 times plus and minus 2, which gives me a plus and minus 18. And that would be choice C. 50 through 57. 50 through 57. Yes. 52. Simplify the square root of 8z squared y cubed. Go ahead and prime factor, which would be 2 times 2 times 2 times z times z times y times y times y. We're looking for pairs. So a 2, a z, and a y come out, which leaves me a 2 and a y under the radical. 2zy radical 2y, which is choice C. Sorry. Yes? 56? Okay, solving a radical equation. Step 1, square each side. Step 2, in this particular case, we're going to add 20 to each side. This is 36. Sorry, I was ahead of myself. Which gives me 7s equals 56. Divide each side by 7. S equals 8. The most important thing you have to do here, guys, is you have to check your work. Because sometimes when you square, you form an extraneous solution. Okay? So now you're going to plug it in, and it needs to make sure that the left side equals the right side, which means a positive number equals a positive, not a positive equals a negative. So 7 times 8 minus 20 equals 6. Radical 56 minus 20 equals 6. Radical 36 equals 6. 6 equals 6. 8 is a true solution. The reason number 56 is a no solution is because when you have anything under a radical that equals a negative number, your answer is always a no solution. And let me show you why, so you don't miss it on the exam. So this would be 2a equals 36. Divide by 2, and you get a equals 18. So a lot of you are just going to go right ahead and you're going to put choice C. That's an incorrect answer, because when you go to check your work, you have radical 2a equals negative 6. Radical 2 times 18 equals negative 6. Radical 36 equals negative 6. 6 does not equal 6 does not equal negative 6 So your answer is no solution. Questions 58 through 63. 58. If C is the measure of the hypotenuse of a right triangle, find each missing measure. If necessary, round to the nearest hundredth. The Pythagorean theorem says this: a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A equals 60. B is what we're trying to find, and C equals 100. Could you please stay quiet? Thank you. 60 squared plus B squared equals 100 squared, or 3600 plus B squared equals 10,000. Subtract 3,600 from each side, and you get B squared equals 6,400. Take the square root of each side, and you get B equals 80. And so the answer would be choice C. Pretty much the rest was chapter 12 and chapter 10. Anybody have a question, 59 through 63? Are we good on the stats part? You guys killed that test. Yes?
I just have a question. On the test, like, on the part when we have to find the mean, median, and mode, on some of the questions...
Okay, I already told you that. So please remember, there was one question on the practice final where I forgot to take it off. So what did I tell you guys? Are you responsible to find which method of central tendency best describes the data? Did I ever make you do that? Absolutely not. So you will not be asked that. And it is correct on the final exam, because I have checked it 3 times. And Mrs. Rain checked it. Excuse me. Is that it? Okay, so the next time, this is first period signing off. The next time I see you will be tomorrow morning, and you will be taking your final exam. And I'm looking for many of you to make high A's, because you should. You've been well prepared. So, peace out. Blessings from Mrs. Urso. Have a wonderful day.